Um, I'm
Hi,
also
Shaila. Please go ahead.
a freelance consultant in the L&D space. Actually, Venkatesh mentioned that this webinar is happening, so he sent me the invite. I thought that I think it's prudent to attend this session as well to learn a little bit more.
Wonderful, Ajit. So honored to have you around with us as well.
It's my honor as well. Thank you for giving me this opportunity too.
Sure, Ajit.
Hello. Yeah, can you hear me? Hello.
Who's that?
Yeah, this is Joseph. Hi, Shaila. Good evening.
Hi, Joseph. Hello, how are you?
Yeah, good. Good you're able to hear me. Otherwise, I was
Yes,
not able
yes.
to. Not too sure.
Lovely to meet you here again, Joseph.
Yeah, gentlemen, I am a retired army officer and just got into coaching. Happened to meet Shaila in MMA where she presented on coaching. That's how I'm here.
Wonderful of you to have come and attending this, Joseph.
Yeah, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Okay, coaches. The 6:30 on dot. We have Shaila with us today. Um, Shaila is a leadership coach working with executives and senior teams in manufacturing, IT, and educational fields. Specializes in team building, managing change, and execution of strategy in multicultural situations in India, US, and Middle East. And she is also a licensed human element practitioner, one of the very few in India, and the first Indian woman to be certified. And she is a PCC coach from ICF. She is also a dean consultant in Indian Society of Applied Behavioral Science, ISAPS. She is a subject matter expert as a master trainer for Train the Trainer program at Logistics Sector Skill Council of India, and she's right now director of program for our ICF Chennai chapter, and she's also a founder of Conversational Cave in Chennai. Shaila is very known personality in coaching community, and she is instrumental for our ICF Chennai chapter newsletters, and she did our one-day workshop in MMA Chennai. And she's a founder and director of Vedvya's Inner Space, and she has impacted over 34,000 participants. From our Chennai chapter, we requested Shaila to do a skill building workshop, which we started a couple of months back. So we take each core modules and we are having a skill building webinar on that. Personally, I know Shaila very well, and to me, Shaila is a very avid reader, and she's a walking dictionary, Oxford Dictionary for me. Without further ado, let me hand over the webinar to Shaila. Welcome, Shaila.
Thank you, Rajesh. No comments on that, okay? So, friends, coaches, let's start. One of the things that I'd like to share is that this webinar will be an interactive one. It won't be something where I go on talking, because after all, it's all about questioning. And you have the complete freedom to question, and I have the complete freedom to question as well. Okay. With that as a simple norm, let's move on. So one of the things that I read, which struck me very beautifully, was the fact that to get a beautiful answer, you have to ask a beautiful question. And that is one of the major reasons why coaching is so highly promoted on this particular tool. Do you remember the times when in school or college or anywhere, when anybody had to ask questions, we would be quivering at our knees and wondering why is it that they've chosen me, or why are they asking me all these questions? It would be mainly intimidating or interrogatory, or it would be in such a way that we become very defensive, right? So that's not the kind of questioning that we are looking at. We are looking at powerful questions. Now, what is powerful questions is something that we will be looking at. So if I were to ask you, according to you, what makes a question powerful, okay, then what would your answers be?
You can put your answers on the chat box. You can type your answers on the chat box.
Okay, that generates insight, getting into a thinking mode, wonderful. A question that is about the who, great. That shifts the mindset, yes. And not the what, which empowers the participants involved, promotes reflection, the what and the how, one that makes us think. So typically, if I were to categorize it, it is one that makes us shift and think, one that makes us look a little more deeper, one that empowers us, one that promotes reflection, and one that helps to see the unseen, listen to the unsaid, and feel the unfelt. Absolutely. So that takes us to the Socratic method, right? If you think of one question that has always been unanswered till date, a question that started aeons ago, is the question, who am I? Right from Ramana Maharishi, who said, ask yourself, who am I? And for most of us, I think the answer is yet to be found. But nevertheless, it prods us to seek, to think, to introspect, to work with what we know of ourselves. So maybe we don't have the complete spectrum of who we are, but we do have a little bit, and that helps us peel layers so that we know who we are, and it also helps us know who we are not. So to that extent, the question is a very powerful question, right? So in today's webinar, what we are going to look at is questioning as a primary tool in coaching. Why do we use questioning? One of the things is, when I want to question, is to learn to tell myself as a coach that it's not my job to fix you. You are responsible for your life. In other words, we are telling the coachee that you are the expert of your life. You have the answers. You know what is best for you. And therefore, all I'm going to do is open up the box a bit and ask questions, throw open a lot of questions that will make you understand that the answers are within you. This is the primary motive why we are looking at questioning, and that too Socratic kind of questioning. It's a method, like what many of you said, that facilitates the person to think for himself or herself. I'm sure that sometimes we have wondered, okay, now I understand what the coachee is going to say. I understand what she is saying, but what should I be asking? How do I get this coachee to look at it differently? What can I add that will make her go deeper into herself, introspect, shift, understand the what and the how, understand who, understand the unseen, understand the unsaid and the unfelt? How do I go about doing all of this? There are many times all of us as coaches have probably had these little gaps in our heads where we are thinking, okay, what next? So the idea is not that we will be able to help in a way in which the coachee is dumbstruck, but in a way in which we are rappelling around our brains trying to understand what's the next step. So when I calm myself and tell, my value to you is my ability to help you, to draw from your own experiences and knowledge. So that gives me the cornerstone on which I can build, is to ask questions about your own experiences, to ask about how or what it is based on your knowledge. And I'm also going to be sure that you're the one who's the steward of your life. And this is the only way I can facilitate in a way in which you will find your answers, right? This is what gives me the grounding that this is what I'm going to offer as powerful questions. So when I look at it, I remember when I was a newbie coachee, I used to get very flustered and my whole concentration was on myself and not on the coachee. So many a time, my mentor, Alice Schutz, the wife of Will Schutz, she would tell me, okay, stay calm, breathe, you'll just do fine. And believe me, that just helps in calming myself, in understanding that I'm going to do fine. So as time goes by, I moved from conscious incompetence to unconscious competence. And if you ask me, so how did you do that? Yes, the first thing is why? Why should I be so calm? And what are the tips that I can do or be to be present? One of the first things that I have as a habit is to shake away any kind of vestiges that I may be carrying emotionally before coming into the coaching session. When I shake away that, it takes me to the present. It helps me be grounded to the moment, to be in the here and now. And yet, despite that, sometimes I can digress, right? So when I digress, I catch myself digressing and I pull myself back and I start listening to the coachee with the deepest of intent. And that helps me in understanding what is the kind of questions that I can really come back to. So when I come back to the present, I have this image of the kingfisher. Anybody who can connect this kingfisher to questioning? I'm just asking. Can you type your answers? What does a kingfisher have to do with questioning? Guess, just keep guessing wild thoughts. You might be hitting it. Patience, dives deep, wonderful. Precision and keen eye, focus and look for the fish, brilliant. Prods away, yes. Gets drunk on being present, no. Dives and gets its goal, yes. Focused, yes. Need a beer to have a meaningful conversation, maybe. I'm glad nobody said you be. So this is one of my images that I carry for myself when I'm in the coach's role. I ask, how is it that a kingfisher just is being? It just bees in whatever moment it is. Alert, very, very alert, observes absolutely. And then when the moment is just right, dives deep, swooping precisely, incisively, and successfully, leaving the rest of the water untouched, undisturbed. So that is the kind of questioning that I would aim for. It should be simple, it should be skeletal, it should be so incisive, no rambling, no having too many words in the question, no asking too many questions at the same time, just one single swoop and the question is taken, right? So that kind of gives me the surgical strike, for want of a better word. And I'm able to really reach it only because I go into this. This is the process of asking of powerful questions. The first step, keep calm and observe. Like the kingfisher, just stay on the branch, listen with deepest of intents, keep calm, observe. And even as you are observing, keep calm and listen. Listen to every little thing, okay? Listen to the sounds, listen to what the coachee is saying, listen to what is unsaid, maybe the body language, maybe the twitching of the eyes, even to that extent, just listen. And when you are completely in union with the coachee, process. One part of your brain is processing all what your coachee has said. Maybe you are listening so deeply that you're able to paraphrase it exactly. Maybe you are intuiting that there are aspects that the coachee is not probably telling or probably not aware of, probably not even wanting to share it, but you have a hunch that this is what probably the client wants to speak about. But you don't want to ask a leading question and suggest anything. So you just probe deeper. And as you probe deeper, you're able to dive deeper in such a way, like the kingfisher, that goes and gets its goal, the fish. Now what we have done is we have gone deeper than the behavior. We've gone to the emotional aspect, which is probably blocking the client in such a way that the client is probably not aware of why am I doing what I'm doing, or why am I not doing what I want to do, or understanding the gap between the knowing and the doing. Once this is done, you can remember this with the acronym OLPP. O for observe, L for listen, P for process, P for probe. When you do this, you're able to really know where you're going. What's the direction you'd like the client to be going to, in such a way that the client is also partnering with you. Once the probing is done, take a reverse. Process how is the client doing after I have probed him? What is the reaction? Is he going into a reflective mode? Is the client really thinking about what I've said? Is the client able to understand? So is he digging deeper? What do you think is happening? Listen to her language, her body language. Observe him or her. And perhaps you saw a sigh of relief. And then you could ask, I saw that, a sigh. What does that sigh mean to you? This will definitely get the client to go even further. It will take the client into deeper levels where the answers are probably caught there. So if you had to look at it, this is what goes into the asking of powerful questions. This is my model. Maybe there are several other models, but this helps me go in a spiral in which I observe, I listen, I process, and I probe. Again and again, it keeps on happening. And with each question, the probing happens even deeper. I'm not going into the open-ended question and the close-ended question because I think all of us have probably, moved from that level. If you haven't, I would be happy to explain that as well. So if you could type a message there saying yes or no, I'd be glad to support you there. Type yes if you want me to talk about open and close-ended coaching. Okay. Yes, I get 1 yes, 2 yeses, 3 yeses, 4 yeses. Okay. No, thank you. 5 yes, 6 yes. Okay. So I think I will respect those of us who have said yes. I'd like a quick understanding of what is an open and a close-ended coaching. Very briefly, of course. So just imagine a funnel, okay? And a funnel where the bottom is on the table or something. So in the beginning, we ask open-ended questions whenever we want the client to be more expansive, to talk more about him or herself, to talk more about the situation, to really say more, to explain something, for us to get an understanding of what exactly the client is feeling or what exactly the client is thinking about that particular situation. All those are open-ended questions because they open up the client in such a way that the client talks more, right? For example, a simple example that I would say, if I said, did you have your coffee? The answer can only be a yes or a no, okay? But if I asked you, how was your coffee? How did you feel when you had a hot cup of coffee on a hot weather like this? I'm sure many of us would speak at least 3 to 4 sentences. So then it becomes an open question. Once we have asked all these open questions, they slowly narrow down like the funnel to the narrow nozzle of the funnel, right? And then when we go to the goals and the action plan, we can't ask open-ended questions there. We have to clinch it. So we ask, so what more support do you need? When do you think you will start working on your goal? How long do you want? So all these will have to make the client agree to some particular timing, some particular, action plan, which 3 steps are you going to take? So the client has to say something A, B, C, D, right? So all this can happen when the open-ended questions move on to being close-ended. That's why the funnel is narrow. You don't have an option of really wandering away with a lot of answers. So that makes it close-ended question. Have I answered you? Have I answered those of you who wanted to know more about this? Yes, 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 yes. Brilliant. So let's move on. So when I have gone through the process of powerful questions, the asking of powerful questions, and I know where now I have to ask open and close-ended questions, there's one important technique that I have to employ many a time. That is, allow the client to think. When I give this time to the client to think, I've asked a question. So give some time for the client to think, to soak, to absorb the question, to absorb the implications, to absorb what exactly am I thinking. So today I was doing a coaching session, and one of the questions that the coachee was going through was, do I want to live in the moment, or do I want to live, life to the fullest? So when the coach asked, so which one is more important to you? The coachee had to take a moment, step back and think, which one is more important to me? Now that's a very deep question, and that requires a few minutes for the coachee to think. So then the coachee comes out and says, no, I think I choose to live the moment, to live fully. So when I allow the client to think, that's the form of silence. So what is so important about allowing this moment of silence? I would say it's definitely an appendage to powerful questioning. It's not a separate tool. It's very much part of powerful questions, because my silence speaks when there are no words. I don't know what to say. I'm thinking, I'm reflecting. I may be going through an emotional moment. I may be going through some old memories, understanding, resolving. Maybe I'm going through the conflict. All these are indicators that my question has hit, that I have swooped and I have picked up the right aspect of this challenge that the client is going through. This silence is something that a coach can only do. By not doing, I'm doing actually. It actually acts as a synapse in the brain of the client and in the brain of the coach, which actually I would compare it to a germination ground. Okay, a germination ground where the realization actually blooms. So allowing it to happen, holding that space, only the coach can do. And this is the fuel by which actually a coach can coach. So when I look at that, the possibilities are endless. It gave me that moment where I can think, when I can articulate in my head, when I could actually listen to all the voices in my head as a client. Yes, that's an aha moment, an idea moment, an ideation moment. Okay. Maybe it is a moment where I'm allowing new possibilities to grow, or I'm unlearning in such a way that I'm actually shedding away unhelpful moments. I take it that, okay, this has not helped me in all these years to grow. Maybe this is the one that restricted me from growing and from me understanding my own potential. So it's important that I kind of let it go. That happens during silence. So this silence is something that we really, look at, to allow the client to, this is such a sacred moment according to me. Yes, Vijayalakshmi has a question. Please ask me. Please, will you type it there? Is there some way to bring closure to the 4th step process you spoke of? What happens after the probe? Wonderful, Vijayalakshmi. That's exactly what I'm saying. So after the 4th step of probing, we allow sometimes, there is no algorithm to this. But depending on the context, depending on the situation that the client, wherever the client is in that current reality. So sometimes I allow a lot of silence to happen so that the client is able to think about it, to immerse in it, to absorb in it, to soak it. And when that happens, you'll really realize the magic happens. Supposing that doesn't happen, let's assume that it doesn't happen, okay? It doesn't always have to happen. Then go back to the first step. Observe. Listen. Sometimes you could paraphrase. You could say, okay, this is what I heard you say, right? Have I got all the points? And when that is done, your client will agree with you and say, no, actually, or, this is also what I wanted to say. Brilliant. So add that along as well. When you have done that, this is a cycle. It's not a one-time 4-step. It's a spiral that keeps on happening dynamically. Have I answered, Vijayalakshmi? Does that answer you? Yes, it is a spiral, because it's not a linear thing like, okay, I've asked my 4-step process. Now what do I do? No, it's that is what I'm sure all our coaches, senior coaches have told us. It's dancing in the moment. So when I see that, it's a dance. I carry the person. Sometimes the person carries me. Sometimes you never know finally who's the dancer and who's the dance, right? So that's the beauty of it, and that tiny synapse is the sacred moment, for me at least. So how do I know that this question has been powerful? Okay, Shabari says, Shaila, sometimes the silence may not be an insightful moment for the client, but could also be the time for the client to experience the discomfort of not knowing. Brilliant. Not having a ready answer. Great. The belief is that our learning also happens in the discomfort zone. Absolutely, Shabri. You're bang on. Right? Sometimes it is not about the aha moment. Sometimes it is about the oh moment. Oh, really? That was how I was? Okay, never mind. It doesn't matter whether it's the comfort or discomfort or the realization or non-realization. But nevertheless, it is a moment when something is happening, some motor is getting switched on. That's how I'd like to look at it. So how do I know that a question has been powerful, a question has been, I felt good. One, it should empower the client. It could be personal. It should resonate with the client. It should be asking. It should be curious. It should be explicit, especially explicit. And it should be curious. It should come from a space of, okay, I too don't know, but do you think this could be one of the reasons? So when I ask it with a lot of curiosity, I'm actually engaging with the client. If I come from I know it, then the balance is a little hierarchical, or, it's not the best place for a coach to be. Okay? When it has an impact, it could mean different things to different people. Like what Shabri said, it need not be an insightful moment. It could be a moment of discomfort. It could be a moment when the learning happens because of discomfort. It could be anything. It lies in the context. So simply put, in this picture, the bulb burns. Which bulb will burn? What makes the bulb burn? I have no idea. It depends totally on the context. It depends totally on the client, the challenges that the client is going through. Whatever it is, the bulb burns. And that makes the powerful question powerful. Okay? Can I go on to the next slide? Now I come to one of the best things. What is your favorite question? Could you type it? What's a question that has worked a lot for you? Or when somebody asked you when you were a coach, gee, what was your favorite question? Somebody from 1+2 says, we say learning takes place between the question and the answer. Greater the gap, greater the learning. Yes. Sharper the question, happier the answer. So what's your favorite question? Wait, it's going so fast. What else? How did you feel when? What else? What is happening now? Okay, give me a minute. Shaila had a question. No, sorry. Yes, what else is a favorite question for most people here? What's happening now? Yes, my favorite question is what else? What is emerging for you? Great. Tell me more. Yes, Sanjog, that's a wonderful question. Anything else? Why do you want this so much? On a scale of 10, what would you measure your feeling? How does that feel? What is your intuition saying? How is your feeling now? Yes. Right? All of this goes below the surface and we are talking to the person. We are actually engaging with the person. Silence is also Jagdish Kani's question, is sometimes just remaining silent. So let me tell you, one of my favorite questions is to ask the client itself, what can I ask you that will help you realize this challenge? It makes me vulnerable, right? It makes me put myself in a state of less ego. So then the question is, what can I ask you that will help you realize this challenge? Believe me, the client is quite ready to say, maybe you should be asking me this. There you are. There you are. It works wonders. What would you do in their shoes? Oh, Geeta, yeah, right. So this question is a very hard to ask question, especially if we are wearing our coach's hat, but it does work wonders. Try it even with your children. Try it with anyone, okay? And invariably, after a kind of rapport, the kind of intimacy, the kind of trust that you've developed, it's no longer about being a coach and a coachee. There's something that is more powerful happening between both of us. And it works wonders. And slowly, I am moving my client from conscious incompetence to unconscious competence. Because my success lies in the success of the coachee, right? So that's one of the favorite questions that I have. Though every question we all have. So I would really suggest that all of us look at more questions to sharpen our saw. If a person is an iceberg, the powerful question reveals I'm reading this from Venkatesh's chat. If a person is an iceberg, the powerful question reveals the underlying beliefs beneath the surface of water by making the person lower the water level on their inner world. Wow. Yes, it does. Right? So it makes it, see, when I'm vulnerable, unconsciously, I'm allowing my coachee also to become vulnerable. In a way, I'm role modeling that. Okay? So, so let's look at this next question. Yes, this is a little bit of a digression. We have ethical questions that we need to be also looking at. Okay? So one of the ethical questions that we can, especially when we are talking to teenagers or when the client is just not, what shall I say, clear about something. What are you pretending? Now that's a very confrontative question, okay? But if you can get your client to answer it, you will understand what the client is actually working on as a payoff, right? So every single situation, I do it because there is a payoff. And identifying that payoff makes me release a lot of my potential. I at least come to a sense of consciousness that, okay, this is why I'm doing it. Is it helping me? Is it not helping me? Then I could actually move on from there. What do you think your parents would say if you did this? Believe me, even a 60-year-old would have an answer to that. And an honest answer, because what we have learned in our formative years is still there with us no matter what our age is. So these are very challenging and confronting questions, which we need to ask with care, with a lot of carefronting rather than confrontation. But nevertheless, they're very powerful questions. So I have Vijayalakshmi here saying, can you share from your experiences a few questions that you don't enable progress? Some of the staccato questions, Vijayalakshmi, which we ask more out of rote than by understanding the situation or understanding the client, doesn't really enable progress for me. Okay. I don't really remember which question would be that doesn't enable. Some of the typical questions that you ask for the sake of asking, anything like that would not enable progress. This is another thing that I do pretty often. I make a portfolio of my own questions, some of the questions that I found very impactful. And I think, how can I improve them better? How can I phrase them better? And I would urge you as well to do this, because ultimately, no matter how many psychometric tools we use, this portfolio of your own questions and making it your own repertoire comes in very handy. It's like digging and tilling the soil so that when it really happens, the germination can happen in a jiffy. Okay. So I would urge you to really look at that. It doesn't take a lot of your time. Sometimes when you are sitting in your airport or anywhere having nothing to do, just type in the kind of questions that you would love to ask and play with them, rephrase them. Say, what if I asked them like this? What if I had to actually show them that, I really have their concern in mind? You can really play with it. And those of us who are in love with birds, we definitely come out with better questions. See, these are a list of the powerful questions that I think is very successful most of the times. So what's holding you back? So what's stopping you from doing that? So imagine the answers. The answers would be, ta-da, 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 or, my boss is like this and that's what's holding me back. So you're really on a gold mine then. You can work it out from there. Sometimes there are people who are all gung-ho about it, but when it comes to the goal setting and really putting it into action, you find that kind of thing. So how much energy are you willing to put into that? So this doesn't put the client on a back foot. Okay. What are you trying to prove to yourself? If I was in your shoes, I asked you for advice, what advice would you give me? Just because it happened in the past, why should it happen again? Or sometimes, if your money could talk, what would it say to you? What are you waiting for? These are just some of the questions. You may want to use it, or you may not want to use it. Maybe you have better list. It doesn't matter. Because ultimately we are our authors of our own questions. So Dharmesh Mistry here has a suggestion. One downside of having a portfolio of questions is to recognize the urge to ask them rather than being in the moment and being curious. Very true, Dharmesh. However, it's like, I would compare it to tennis, where my strokes are good. And then I put those strokes in the moment, and then when I hit when the racket hits the ball, it becomes my stroke. Okay, so this is just the groundwork that I would ask you. I wouldn't want you to put it in front and use them one by one. Then again, like what Vijayalakshmi said, it would become a very disabling question. However, just as some kind of a background work, we could use all of that. It's only a what shall I say? It's only a walking stick that you can use at some point in time. You don't have to go the entire mile using those things, right? So now I'm done with this. We have 15 minutes. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask those questions. Shaila, apart from the words, sometimes I find the tone we use can also shift the question levels of powerfulness too. I think that's what you meant to with the curiosity you spoke. Yes, Shabari, certainly. The tone, the way, the phrase, the tenor of what the situation is, all of that adds to powerful questioning. No doubt about it at all. You're bang on. So now I'm going to keep quiet till I get some questions.
This is Rajesh. You can also unmute your line and ask questions if you don't want to use chat box.
I do like and have a few portfolio of questions, but sometimes it came in the way of asking that silent question. Yes. Can confrontation work with senior executives? It can work with any person, Kalyan, provided it comes from a space of not that adversarial, but more from, I'm challenging you because I see that potential in you. Okay. I've heard mixed reviews about whether to use why questions or not. What do you feel? Yes, in my experience, Shabri, why question is certainly has its value. As long as I'm not taking the why question to make the person go into a cognitive mode. Okay. I would rather understand the how of it, the what of it, the who of it, all of that has more value in, especially in coaching sessions. If it was a mentoring thing, yes, the why of it certainly helps. You could unmute yourself if you wanted to ask the question. Shaker. Appreciate questions that are appropriate to the 4 boxes in the Johari window. That is helpful when we like someone to face up to the sides of them that they are too shy to look at. Yes. What's a good ratio to have between questioning and listening time? What works for you? Vijayalakshmi says. Typically, I would say listening time is more valuable. But then after you listen, if you don't ask question, then listening has no value. So it's like putting the right foot forward, and then I can't stand there with only my right foot forward. I have to put my left foot forward too. So that we are actually moving forward. So a little bit of listening time, a little bit of questioning time, and then listening time. They're both sides of the same, of a coin, different sides of the coin. I don't have a ratio, honestly, Vijayalakshmi. I've never ever looked at it that way. 20 to 80, of course. Yes, the client speaks 80 and the coach speaks only 20. That, yes. But questioning and listening, sorry, it's a leading question. It's that I have no answer to it. That's the only thing. It's not that it's about a leading question. I really haven't analyzed myself to that extent as to ask what's the ratio of how much I'm questioning and how much I'm listening. I would incline more to listening, because the more I listen, the better my questions are. So I would say listening is definitely, for me, a primary tool than questioning. Yes, talk less, listen more, Ajit says. I have seen silence giving results, Kalyan says. What would be a good question to challenge the coachee's belief, which is limiting to the coachee? I think, Sunil, what's holding you back? What's the belief system that works for you? Because invariably, Sunil, all of us work from a certain underlying belief. That value system, if I can tap and if I can see what is it, whether that value system, have I outgrown that value system, or is it really working still for me? That's a great place to start with to understand what's limiting me. What are your views on leading questions in case the client is going all over? One of the ways in which, Joseph, to stop leading questions and to stop the client wandering all over is to paraphrase it. So I hear you telling me A, B, C, D, E, correct? Then the client feels very heard. And when the client feels listened to, the client is not going to wander all over again. Yes. Aren't leading questions a field of landmines? Yes, yes. Ajit, yes. Thank you, Sunil, to everyone. What portfolio of questions have worked for you for self-inquiry while acting as a self-coach? Venkatesh, the thing that has worked for me often is Am I being true to myself? Is this who I'm choosing to be? Is this who I want to become? These questions certainly help me in clarifying, am I going on the right track or not? So when I choose, when I'm especially asking, is this who I want to be? Then the answer is like very brutally, you're terrible. So just think about it. So that makes me come back, and if I'm derailed, back on track. Sunil is asking, what would be a good question to motivate the coachee to take action? Sunil, sometimes the question about how urgent is this for you? How important is this for you? I mean, what is your desperation level to have this happen? Then the coachee invariably comes back and tells you. If the desperation level is only 2 or 3, then you to know that you shouldn't be pushing him or her on this track. There's something else that's happening below. What is a good opening question at the beginning of a session? Once coachee spoke for 20 minutes when I asked, what do you want to discuss today? Yes, Mani, it's very important for us to set the goals right. Otherwise, at the end of the session, we may understand that it was a brilliant coffee conversation. So unless I know what the outcome is, what the coachee really wants, it doesn't become coaching, according to me. Ashima is asking, certain times, even after listening, you don't know what to ask next. You just get stuck. What to do then? So that's the brilliant question, Ashima, that you say, what is the best question that you think I should be asking for you to come out with more? So sometimes the client says, no, don't ask me anything. I just want to share this with you more. And then from there, you get another whole bundle of information from this open-ended question that you can pick again and ask. Sometimes you can paraphrase what the coachee has said. And when you paraphrase, it gives new insight sometimes to hear your own thoughts being voiced back. Right, Ashima? Have I answered that? So Manigandan is asking, so do you interrupt the 20-minute monologue to ask what is the goal? No, don't interrupt. After the 20-minute monologue, you ask what is it that you'd really, oh wow, the questions are coming in full force. 1 minute, give me a second. Yes, certain times even after listening, you don't know what to ask. Okay, so you interrupt, no you don't interrupt. A doctor, where is it? A doctor asked my elderly aunt a great question that I now use. On a scale of 1 to 10, what is your level of pain right now? Yes. It's a wonderful question, Shabri, to ask, because now you're quantifying something. When you are able to quantify it, the clarity becomes a lot better. Allow the inclusion of the word pain in our coaching conversations. Yes. When do we really be very sure that the coachee has a goal for the session when they keep talking? So, Abhiramika, you are actually listening to the coachee, and you kind of intuit that probably this is where the coachee wants to go. But that's only your intuition, right? No matter, it would be great to have your coachee tell you where exactly he or she wants to go. Because no matter what your hunch is, you could be 100% bang on. Even then, it's safer and better and more respectful to the coachee when the coachee tells you what the goal is. Right. Apart from the client's feedback, what do you ask yourself for reflection on how the coaching session went? So, Venkatesh, one of the things I ask my coachee sometimes is, what was the most powerful moment for you? So the coachee says, sometimes you just wouldn't have thought of it as powerful. But when the coachee says, that is the powerful moment, that's a powerful moment. Right? Manigandan says, thanks. Yes. How does one deal with a client who is either unwilling or genuinely unable to delve deeper? Dharmesh, one of the things that such a person who feels very stuck, unable to tell what exactly he or she is feeling, is to ask about the sensations in the body. Where do you feel this particular pain, or where do you feel this anger, or whatever the feeling that the client has spoken about? If you can sensationalize that in your body, maybe it is in the thumbs, maybe it is in your palms, that gives you an opening point to go further. Okay, thanks. What questions will help when the client is looking for a mentorship than coaching? First of all, let's have clarity that we are doing a mentoring role rather than coaching. That gives you the freedom not to, like you don't have to restrict yourself to coaching. Vijay, when you are clear that it's mentoring, the ball game is very different. Okay. 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 Can we wrap up? Yes. Can we wrap up, Rajesh? Or do we have more time?
Yeah, we have 5 more minutes or 10 more minutes, but we can wrap up if we don't have any other further questions. If you have any questions, just let's wait for two minutes or 1 minute, and then we'll wrap up the session.
Thank you, Srilata. I'm glad it was an interesting session for you. Thank you, Kalyan.
Okay, I guess we can wrap up the session. So let me ask Kannan or Geeta to share feedback about the session, and you can close the session. And I saw one person joined on the audio bridge. You can use the code word as keep calm and send an email to me so that I can give you a CC certificate. Over on the webinar platform, you don't have to send a separate email for that. I can get the participant list from the platform itself. Geeta or Kannan?
Yeah, Kannan here, Rajesh. Thank you, Shaila. I think it was a wonderful session, and thank you, coaches. It has been a great interaction and a lot of engagement with the speaker on the chat box and on the voice. So hope you enjoyed the session, and we look forward to connecting you in the next session. Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Geeta, are you there on the call? I saw you. Geeta?
Yes, I am. Right. No, I think Kannan put it across very well. So thank you, everybody. I mean, I think it was a wonderful session that Shaila conducted. But I think what made it interesting and learning for everyone was when each of us shared our views, asked questions, and there was learning all around. I think that's what made it doubly powerful. So thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Geeta.
Thank you.
When people process was the most powerful moment. I'm so happy. And somebody else says, aha and oh, Vijayalakshmi, that was a wonderful moment for you. I'm so happy. I got 3 insights, says Shekhar Rangarajan. Very glad to read that. Lovely session. What do you say when someone asks you, where are you coming from? Rangarajan, where are you coming from would be a question that pertains to your feeling, your location in terms of your feeling, Rangarajan. Shekhar, if you're there. Yes. Venkatesh is asking when is the next session. Good one, first time for me, says Abano. Sure, we'll send you more event invites, Abano.
Okay, thanks Shaila for a great session, and I really enjoyed it, and thanks for your meticulous preparation and putting across the slides and answering, keeping the session very interactive. Thank you very much, Shaila.
Thank you.
And we will be getting 1 hour of CC credit on the core competencies. And if you want to be part of this Chennai distro, I got a request from the Bangalore chapter. Send an email to me. I already sent my email address in the chat box. I will add you to the Chennai distro. We have around 100 people on our distro. And we also have a WhatsApp group where we have the conversation on the coaching topics or coaching related events. Please share, text me or WhatsApp me on my number. Thanks once again. Thanks for a wonderful session. Have a nice weekend. Thank you.
Thank you. Good night, everybody.
Rajesh, somebody is asking for the code again.
Okay, just only for the audio bridge. I think only one person is on the audio bridge. The keep calm is the code. For whoever joined on the webinar platform, I will pull up the email address from the records.
Thank you.
Keep calm is the code word.